next thing we will be doing is the assistant secretary race.
Was she able to make it? I don't think she was, but...
Kylie Kramer, come on up. And here's Kylie Kramer.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for staying. I know it's a long day, but I'm so grateful to see all of you here and meet so many new faces that I talked to so many times on the chat. Just a little bit about myself. I have worked in politics across the nation for the last 15 or so years on the grassroots level, but on a national scale. I worked for Tea Party Express, and then I went to New York City for a few years and was a producer for Sean Hannity, and I spoke to grassroots people every day, all day across America. And then after that, I went to Women for America First, and we're the ones that held all of the Stop the Steal stuff after the 2020 election. When the RNC and some of these other big groups were not doing anything and standing with we the people after the election was stolen in 2020, we stepped in with a coalition of people to fill the gap. And I'm so proud of all the hard work that we did from November 2020 through January 6, 2021. We were at the White House with President Trump, and the last 4 years have honestly been hell. We have been investigated by every ABC agency and whatnot. And one thing I want to point out was that Chairman McCoon talked about how, they're going to be knocking at the door and jailing people and arresting people in 2028. We're already there. And that's why I'm stepped up to run, because it is such an imperative point in our party that we need to actually be doing stuff to build the infrastructure at the Georgia GOP. We have such an opportunity here with so many amazing people that are not being utilized or brought to the table to be a part of the process and get involved and grow the parties with their different ideas and different tactics, because what we're doing is not working. So I'm very excited to be meeting all of you and working across the state, doing different things. And this is the deal. I may have not been involved here specifically until last year. It was the first time that I was a delegate. But I have been engaged in working on all of these things because I feel the same way that you guys do. And election integrity is something that not only I believe in, but it's very clear from our president with his executive order that we have to get paper ballots, hand-counted paper ballots, and one-day voting. There is no excuse that we did not even try and ask the legislature for that this time. I'm sick and tired of the excuses. We have people that are representing us that need to be held accountable for their different votes and different actions. So I'm asking for your vote in Dalton, and I'll be here afterwards as well if you want to talk to me. Thank you so much.
And now Jaquan Stembridge. And Kylie, you can have a seat up here too. All right, but Jaquan, you have 2 minutes.
All right, thank you. All right, my name is Jaquan Stembridge. I'm 18 years old. I'm from Greene County, Georgia, and I'm running to be your next assistant secretary. Every time I go across the state, people always ask me the same question. They say, "You're so young. How did you get involved in politics at such a young age?" And I tell everyone the same thing, that my story is really simple. I got involved in politics in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic when the world was shut down and the government wanted to take full control of our lives. I grew up an only child in a single-parent household in a Democrat household, so I was always told that the Republican Party was the party of rich white men that cared nothing about people that looked like me. Well, during COVID, I figured out that that could not be further from the truth. I figured out two things. Number one, the Republican Party did stand up for the things that the people that look like me cared about, wanting a secure border, wanting more law enforcement in your communities to keep you safe. There was nothing racist about it. It was common sense. So I wanted to get more involved. I also realized during that time that I did not like having the government in full control of my life, so I got involved, and now I am running to be your next assistant secretary because I believe it is time now more than ever that young people and Gen Z have a seat at the table in our Republican Party. A lot of times we go across the state and people always say we want young people, and then when young people like myself come in and ask for a seat at the table, we just get pushed away. This is not a time to push young people out of the party. We need to be bringing in those young people. We always say the quote from Ronald Reagan where he said that freedom was never more than one generation away from extinction. And Ronald Reagan was right, but we need to actually start doing some action with those words. Talk is cheap. we have no more time for talk. We have to get to work. And that's what I want to do as your next assistant secretary. One more thing. We always talk about having America First candidates in these elections. Well, how about we have an America First army of soldiers of this generation of people teaching this next generation why it is so important to be America First activists and to go out there and fight for President Trump's agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaquan. All right. So next is the question and answer session. I'll start and we'll go Jaquan, then Kylie will answer first. First question, what have you done to support and advance election integrity?
Well, when I first got involved in politics, I will tell you the truth, I had no idea about how to do elections. But when I started working on the victory team in 2022, I figured out a lot of stuff. Some of the stuff that I figured out was that the menu machines wasn't working very well for the state of Georgia. People did not have confidence in the election process. So I come here and tell you that I've been at the election board office every day, but I've been working to learn, and I have learned a few things. That the process that we do in Georgia is not working. People are not confident that only one legal ballot is being cast, one legal ballot is being counted, and if you don't have confidence in the election process, we lose everything, because the election is the only voice that we have as we the people.
All right. Kylie.
Okay, so I think the obvious thing starts out first after the 2020 election, starting the whole Stop the Steal movement and having the nationwide bus tours March for Trump to demand transparency and protect election integrity. I've been all over the country working on different things for election integrity, but over the last 4 years, I have a criticism from some people that wrote this question that I haven't been doing enough. And I don't think that you guys realize that when you're under federal investigation from the government, because I held the permit for January 6th where President Trump spoke at the White House, I was instructed by attorneys that I could not be out and loud and proud about everything. And that was because of my life was in jeopardy of going to federal prison for the rest of my life. But since then, I think the most notable thing was last fall, working on the state election board stuff, when we found out that Governor Kemp withheld the funding that was appropriated from the state legislature. I was the only one that was pounding the drum from the Georgia GOP Executive Committee, and I forced them to finally make a statement, and they still would not even call on Governor Kemp to release the funding. And he's the one that is holding it up in the Office of Planning and Budget. It was already appropriated by the state legislature, and it is not okay that we have members on our executive committee that will not even acknowledge that, because you can't call on the governor, you can't say anything negative about him. That's negative. He's going against the state legislature, he's not listening to the people, and the Republican Party gave him cover.
All right, thank you. So starting with Kylie, will you call for the immediate and complete abolishment of all abortion?
I think that the American people have spoken on this, and the Supreme Court has ruled, and it's a state's right. And I believe that that is what that people should do, that the state should vote, and obviously, I mean, we've had the Supreme Court rule.
All right. Jaquan?
To answer your question, yes, I would.
All right. Next, starting with Jaquan, do you personally support the expulsion of John Burns and Brad Raffensperger from the Republican Party and ability to qualify as a Republican?
Yeah, well, we've seen a lot of disasters from our Republican friends down at the Capitol. So to answer your question to that, I personally would. But at the end of the day, it will come down to the delegates at the convention and to our party. So if we're on the executive committee, if that comes down to a vote, my personal vote would be yes, but it will ultimately come down to the delegates, and I'm here to be a voice for the people in this room.
Kylie?
I believe the question was calling for the stepping down of Speaker Burns.
No, I'm expelling. Do you personally spell the expulsion of John Burns and Brad Raffensperger? And I said from the Republican Party ability to be on the primary ballot.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
All right. All right, so starting with Kylie, has anyone tried to convince you to drop out of the race? If so, who? And please provide details.
No, I've been very encouraged to run, and I'm very excited, and I have stood by Jaquan as others have bullied him, and I am proud to stand with him because we need people to be engaged in the process, and it doesn't matter if you win or lose, but this whole idea that you have to be the chosen one or to look a certain way or to be a certain age or to have moved your way in the party, we need to get rid of that. We need to be growing the Republican Party, and you don't do that by telling people that they're not good enough or that something's wrong with them.
Jaquan?
Well, I have answered this question publicly before, so I'll do it again. Yes, I did receive a phone call. Yes, I was asked to drop out. I do not want my campaign to be focused on that. I want my campaign to be focused on my seat at the table and what I bring to it. But I do want to add one more thing. I do think it is important that we address one thing here. And that important thing is we cannot tell people that they can't or that they shouldn't run for things based off of money. It shouldn't be that way. We should be, because at the end of the day, here's the thing. We will never win as a party based off of money. What we will win as a party of is going over there winning the hearts of people. You can have all the money in the world. It does not matter if you're not winning over hearts.
All right, so I have three similar questions here, so I'm going to ask this. So what is your duty as Assistant Secretary if you're elected to the state GOP, and what are your unique qualifications to do that versus other candidates? Starting with you, Jaquan.
So the responsibility of the Assistant Secretary is just to assist the Secretary. So with that being said, I would be doing extra things because I believe that if you're going to be serving on the Executive Committee, we need to go above and beyond. You need to be actually showing up to more communities so they can hear the conservative message. There are so many people who are like me who don't even know that they're conservative because they've never heard the conservative message. So if I was Assistant Secretary, I would help bring that message to people who have never heard the conservative message before and be able to show those people that conservatism still works. Did I answer the full question there?
I believe so.
Okay.
Can you repeat the question, Alex? I'm sorry.
Yes, the question was,
Sorry, y'all.
what is your duty as Assistant Secretary, if you're elected, what is your duty as Assistant Secretary of the state GOP, and what are your unique qualifications to do that versus anybody else?
Okay, well, obviously, it is to assist the secretary, which either candidate, I'm more than happy to support in that role. But also, it's very important that this is a vote on the Georgia Executive Committee, the Georgia GOP Executive Committee. So that is very important because we need to be having meetings. It's unacceptable that the last state committee meeting was last May, a year ago, May 24, and that the last executive committee meeting was in August of 2024 as well. But beyond that, I have a big social media platform, and I know that I get a lot of pushback that people are saying that I tear people down or that I'm attacking people, and I strongly disagree with that. I would like to be able to work with the Georgia Republican Party to help amplify their message. Unfortunately, I've been told that I'm not good enough, I'm not allowed. I've watched it with several other executive committee members that are current executive committee members, and that is not okay. So I am trying to draw a light on that of how we need to grow the party and build it to be bigger and better. And I would love to be able to use my social media platform to help the Georgia Republican Party with that instead of fighting with people on Twitter and blocking them Georgia GOP account, because that is not okay.
All right, thank you. And starting with Kylie, why did you or did you not sign the non-disparagement agreement to get the delegate list?
So I did not sign the non-disparagement agreement, and I'm very proud not to have. The reason that I did not, a couple things. First of all, it's trying to suppress my First Amendment speech. Also, an advice of many attorneys that I consulted about it. Third is that this is crazy, the hoops that Lisa Pierce and I have had to jump through just to be a part of this race. First, they tried to keep us off the ballot. Now they're trying to keep us from having the delegate list. And this is the thing that they don't want anyone to know. I know that this happened last year. Josh McCoon played the same card last year. And the thing is that my mom, Amy Kramer, who is the RNC National Committee woman, had already signed the first one-page NDA. And now people are going around and saying that the reason that it was created was for my mom and myself, that they were scared we're gonna go and sell the list or something like that. I just want you guys to know something very, very important. I have a list that's almost 1 million people from January 6th and from the March for Trump and Stop the Steal and everything. We don't even hardly use it. Well, we haven't in many years. But number two is that I fought the federal government. It cost us tens of thousands of dollars to keep and protect your information from going to the federal government because I believed that it was going to be used as a list to target. And we stood strong and fought them in the subpoenas with the DOJ, the January 6th committee, and many other agencies to protect our donors and to protect our data. And I think it is very important that the Georgia GOP protects the data, but not when it is giving that data and turning a blind eye and giving it to people like Debbie Dooley, Bill Simon, and others.
Okay. All right. So, as for the NDA, first of all, I want to say it was a bit extreme to say the least. However, I did talk to an attorney about it. They advised me to do it. I did it. Now, some people say that was bad legal advice. I got that from people. We'll have to see.
All right, and another question. So, do you? Oh yeah. What? I guess this will be the final question. What is your definition of grassroots?
Well, we've talked about this a lot today. The grassroots are the people in this room, but most importantly, it are the people who sweat their butts off during the summer to go knock on doors, who did it in 2024 for President Trump. It's the people who took away their Saturdays to sit in their home and make phone calls for Republican candidates. It's the people who are willing to all night and write postcards for Republican candidates to help get out there and elect quality conservatives. And it's the people who show up to conventions like these to make their voices heard so that the establishment know that we're not going anywhere and that we're going to be here to stay.
Diley.
Okay, my definition of grassroots is the people that were in Washington, D.C. on January 6th are out door knocking in the states for different respective races that were still happening and going on. Because when we were doing that and standing with President Donald J. Trump, and there were 77 million of us that voted for him last November, the RNC was down at $1 million at the Ritz-Carlton planning for 2024 because they had already given up on President Trump. And if it were not for the grassroots and the rest of the people across the country backing President Trump, we would not be here today. So I'm very proud to have stood with President Trump and the rest of the grassroots across the country all of these years.
All right, the new result was 54 votes for Kylie Kramer, 24 votes for no endorsement, and that is 78 votes total. It would take 52 votes for endorsement. That means that Kylie Kramer has been endorsed with 54 votes. That is 2/3.